Patrick Henry knew that man could not be trusted and warned Madison that he wouldn't be getting elected to Congress unless he introduced 42 amendments to the Constitution. James Madison kept his promise and grudgingly introduced 42 amendments to the Constitution. 17 made it through to committee, 12 were voted on, and 10 were passed. These became known as the Bill of Rights. Now Patrick Henry is back to tell you what he sees going on today, but I want to warn you, he has absolutely no training in political correctness. Ladies and gentlemen, he was a colonel in the Virginia militia, a 5-time governor of the state of Virginia, and protector of the Bill of Rights. Let's give a warm welcome to Patrick Henry.
May I say, it's been over 200 years since I have seen this many patriots for the cause of freedom. My fellow countrymen, no man thinks more highly than I did of the good intentions as well as the abilities of the very worthy gentlemen who now occupy the White House and Congress. But different men often see the same subject in a different light, and therefore I hope that it will not be thought disrespectful of me if, entertaining as I do opinions of a character very opposite theirs, that I shall speak forth my sentiments freely and without reserve. This is no time for ceremony. The question before the country today is one of an awful moment to our republic. For my part, it is nothing less than a question of, do we want to be free or slaves? And in proportion of the magnitude of the subject, it ought to be the freedom of the debate. It is only in this way that we can hope to arrive at truth and fulfill the great responsibility which we owe to God and to our country. Should I hold back my opinion at such a time through fear of offending someone, I would consider myself as guilty of treason toward my country and as an act of disloyalty toward the majesty of heaven, which I revere above all earthly kings. Ladies and gentlemen, it is natural for man and Americans to indulge themselves in the illusions of hope. We are apt to shut our eyes against a painful truth and listen to the song of that siren until it turns us into beasts. Is this the part of wise men engaged in the great and arduous struggle for liberty? No! Are we destined to be among those who, having eyes, see not, and having ears, hear not, those things which so nearly concern their temporal salvation? No! For my part, whatever anguish of the spirit it may cost, I wish to know the whole truth, the absolute worst, and to provide for it. I have but one lamp by which my feet are guided, and that is the lamp of experience. I know of no way of judging the future but by the past. And judging by the past, I wish to know what there has been in the conduct of the federal government for the last 50 years, with which men are so pleased to solace themselves and to comfort their fellow countrymen. Is it the lack of action our federal government takes when we demand that they close our borders? No. Is it the activist judges that ignore our Constitution? No. Is it those vibrant and charismatic speeches that our politicians give us where they promise us that will solve all our problems and take care of us from cradle to grave with new benefits? Trust it not, sir. It will prove a snare to your feet. Comfort yourself not to be betrayed with a kiss. Ask yourselves how these gracious campaign promises and new government handouts align with the loss of our freedoms and the erosion of our God-given rights? Are the creation of more government agencies and new government laws and ambiguous regulations necessary for a work of liberty and freedom? No! Have we shown ourselves so unwilling to obey the good laws that bad laws must be created to keep us in line? No! I ask you, American citizens, what is the meaning of these new intrusive laws and ambiguous regulations if its purpose is not to force us into submission? Does the government have any enemy beside the UN that calls for all the accumulation of these new bureaucracies and agencies? No, sir. She has none. They are meant to bind and rivet those chains which the federal government has been so long forging. And what do we have to oppose them? Shall we try argument? Shall we demand that they stop spending at such a rate that would make a drunken sailor blush? Yes! Shall we elect fiscal conservatives who only want to grow government by 7% rather than the 9% of their opponent? Shall we keep the finances of our country in the hands of a parasitic central bank? No! Are there any new social or communal programs that our government hasn't thought of where we can reward someone's bad behavior with someone else's confiscated income? No!
Yes, there's many. There's many more, I'm sure.
Shall we surrender our firearms and let our government protect us as they do? As well as they do our borders? No! Let us not deceive ourselves, sir. Except for a handful, we have elected every compromiser and constitutional illiterate that could be elected to cause the storm which is now coming on. We have petitioned. We have written our congressmen. We have cried out to keep us the land of liberty. Our petitions have been met with more laws and regulations and spending that will enslave our children for generations to come. Our critiques on the stimulus package have been met with arrogance and assurances that only the same economic experts who got us into this debacle can get us out. In vain, after these things, may we indulge the fond hope of hanging on to our liberties. If we stay this course, there will be no longer any room for hope.